Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Dorinda and today we're going over my October wrap-up. So this month I only read actually 6 books. I was on my honeymoon for the first 2 weeks of this month and I really did not read at all other than on the plane. So unfortunately I don't have a lot of books to talk to you guys about, but I am excited about the books that I did read, and so let's get started. So I read 6 books and the number of pages I read was 2,458. The different genres that I did read were I read 3 fantasy books, 1 romance book, 1 mystery book, and 1 Christian fiction. So to start off with, the first book that I read is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria E. Schwab. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Once again, I am really bad at saying people's names, so please bear with me. Please be kind to me. I just was never good at this. Even in school, I sucked at pronouncing names. As much as I love to write and to read, I just didn't understand truly the depths of English. I didn't truly understand English as much as I probably should. So I rated this book 4.5 stars. I actually really did enjoy this book. I loved the aspect of going from the past to the present of Addie's life. If you aren't familiar with the book, it's basically about a girl who makes a deal with the devil to essentially live forever. She does not want to be chained to anybody. She just wants to experience everything that life has to offer. So she makes a deal with the devil and essentially he gives her what she wants, but she cannot be remembered by anybody. I thought this concept was so great, and I love Addie's journey throughout the book and how she overcomes this struggle of always being forgotten and how she can leave imprints in the world. I thought it was so beautiful, and how it included art and just the way that she develops relationships in this book and the people that she meets. And like I said, I liked the going back into the past and then going to the present. It kind of gave me a little bit of vibes of the originals, where you would go back into their past and then like their present because they're vampires, so they've lived for so long. The only complaint that I have about this book is I really did not like the whole relationship aspect of how she is with the devil, which his name is Luce. As a Christian woman, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way how that kind of develops. I do think that there is a goodness to it because of how she feels towards it. I don't want to speak too much about it. I'm kind of talking in like this general term that might be confusing for people who've not read it and maybe hinting you to things that aren't necessarily true, but essentially you'll have to read it and you have to understand. But I think that it was a tremendously good book. I think that it was beautifully written. There are so many good quotes I had to highlight and highlight and highlight. I wish I had the physical copy because my Kindle does not do it justice when you highlight on there. But yeah, I thought that book was amazing and it was great, and it had like a bookstore aspect. It does take place presently in New York City, so that's always fun to read, and I did think it suited really well for the fall season. All right, on to book number 2. So the second book that I did read was also on my Kindle, and it was the Harry Potter, The Prisoner of Azkaban. I love the Harry Potter series. I've actually never read the books before. I've only watched the movies, so it was super fun to dive into the world and read the book. They are all on Kindle Unlimited if you do not know. So unfortunately, I actually don't have any physical copies, but when I get a bigger library in my future, I think I will be buying the copies to have on my shelf because they're Harry Potter books. I mean, come on. I did actually read it. I think it was in my fall vlog. I'm pretty sure that's where I read it. So if you want to check that out, definitely check out this video right here. But I just thought it was so good. There were definitely parts of it that were just kind of hard to get through only because I've already seen the movie. So it wasn't as intriguing as if it was the first time I've ever read that book. But the ending was just so good. It reminded me of how much I love Harry Potter over and over again. I just think their endings are so great. I love the magical aspect of Harry Potter. So I think I'm actually gonna stop at Prisoner of Azkaban and wait till next fall to continue reading the series. But I did rate that book 4.5 stars, which I know is kind of crazy. You guys are probably like, what? You didn't rate it 5 stars? Harry Potter. But like the fact that I just have seen the movies before, honestly, unfortunately, does not make them a 5-star read. Because when you have a 5-star read, you get that feeling. It's like this amazing feeling where you're like flipping through the pages and it's just so magical and it's so amazing, and you just see it going on in your head and you're like, what is gonna happen? It's like you're watching a movie for the first time. Because I already know what's gonna happen, I'm not fully immersed into the book. So that is why I got brought down a little bit of a lower ranking. The third book that I read was Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This book I actually didn't read. I listened to it on an audiobook, and I'm not a super big fan of audiobooks. So I do think this had to play into my rating of it, which was only 3 stars. And honestly, if I look back, I think it might be like 2.5 stars or 2.75 stars. The only reason why I did actually kind of enjoy it was because it took place in the fall, and I was listening to it at the beginning of fall, and it was just kind of very nice to get into the season, just get excited about it. And it was kind of cute, like this whole spooky aspect, but the relationship between the two main characters was just honestly not it for me. It basically takes place about this girl who her aunt just gives her her pumpkin spice cafe, and she has to take over it. She meets this small town guy, and they develop this type of relationship is basically what I'm gonna say. And it was just like not it. I didn't care for the relationship. I didn't really care for the characters. I barely even cared for the story. I just liked that it was about the fall time, honestly. That's really all I liked about it. But I have heard people that really like it. They think it's just a sweet, cutesy book, but it just wasn't for me, honestly. So next book that I read is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This book is actually probably, I think, my first mystery book that I've ever read before, and I loved it. I rated it 4.5 stars. I think it was great. I definitely wanted to know what was going on. You can also watch me read this in this video right here. It was so much fun and so exciting, and the end was definitely jaw-dropping. I was like, what? It was so good. Basically, it's about a girl named Pip, and she's in high school, and she has to write this report, or she has to have a project where she has to research something, and she's researching this death that happened in her town. And so she is essentially saying that she's going to be working on the, like, how social media impacts, I forgot what it was, honestly, like her actual, like what she said to her school, what she was writing about versus what she actually was writing about, which is she doesn't think that the killer that they put it as is actually the killer. So she wants to prove him innocent because she kind of knew him, and she just doesn't think he was capable of doing something like that. To see her journey and the information that she gathers, and also like the different suspects that she has, as a reader, you're just really into it as well. You're like, oh, maybe it's that person, maybe it's that person. I can see what she sees. I can see that as well, but maybe that person's rubbing me the wrong way. I don't know. The way that they said this, it's just like so good. I really enjoyed it. And so I have the second book actually right here, and so I am excited to get to read this in the future. But for this book, I think it was definitely a solid read for October. Next book that I have is A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. This book, I don't know if you can tell, I tabbed this book up. This book is so good. This book is so good. It is a Christian fiction book. I think that Christian fiction kind of will make you feel like, I don't really want to read that, especially if you're not a Christian, but I think that the themes in here were beautiful. If you are a Christian, or you do have a love for the religion, and you have just a love for the things that Christians believe, I think you will enjoy this book. I think that if you are not a Christian and you just really don't have the same values as a Christian, I think that you may find this book will rub you the wrong way, just because there is a lot of tough subjects in here. Essentially takes place 40 years after Jesus gets crucified, and it's about this slave girl who is a Jew, but her family is actually a Christian, and she becomes a slave to Rome, and she has to live in this family of Marcus and Julia. And Marcus and Julia are part of a family of very rich Roman wealth, and Marcus is just, you know, he's an aristocrat, he's all about the money and just living this life of carefree, I'm gonna do what I want, I'm gonna spend how I want, and that's just life, you know, that's what life's all about. And then Julia is just a very selfish, self-seeking woman. All she cares about is pleasure, and even like she's obsessed with like seeing the gladiators fight. Just to see how the author writes about how these people cared about the gladiators and how much they like loved it is crazy to think. Like, I can't even imagine now going to a game and watching real life people get slaughtered and liking it. It's insane, but it's a thing. It was a very popular thing back at this time period. So there's also a fourth perspective of a gladiator who is fighting in the arena, and he is a German clan warrior who gets captured and then is forced to fight as a gladiator, and then his journey as well. This book has just such beautiful themes. It really helps you question your life and even how you interact with people who you may not like. The way that Hadassah, I think is how you pronounce her name, is just such a servant of the Lord and just wants to serve the people around her, and the way that she is just always constantly battling even her own faith inside and questioning like how she is as a believer, because she doesn't want to share her faith because she's scared of what other people think, but also serving this family so well and so selflessly is so beautiful. I just think that this is a book that everyone should read. It has themes of love, it has themes of violence, it has themes of hardship. It's just so cool. I don't know, it just has a lot of different themes and a lot of different things, and I'm really excited. I do have Echo in the Darkness, which is the second book on my November TBR, and I am so excited to get to it because man, oh man, did this book leave me in a heartbreak. I was like, what? Wait, what? What is going on? My heart was beating. My heart was beating and I was so upset with one of the characters, and then I was also like amazed by Hadesa and where she was at and the way that she was feeling. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I could talk about this book all day long. This book in this series deserves its own video. So maybe you'll see me talk about it more in the future, but definitely check this out if you're interested. I think it's great. And last but not least, we have book number 6, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This book I actually got to at the very end of October, so I don't even have it on my October wrap up in my reading journal. Also, did I say A Voice in the Wind was 5 stars? It is 5 stars. My October wrap up looks like this. It's because I made this way too soon because I ended up reading this book in 2 days. I think this book is great. I rated it 4.75 stars. This is fantastic. It's just so good. I love a good dystopian book. Like, I put it in my genre category as a fantasy, but it's kind of like science fiction as well. And it's definitely like dystopian because it's about this world where there is different color systems. So reds are like the lowest, golds are the highest, and they have taken over Mars and also multiple other planets. And it takes place with this character named Darrow, and he's basically living in the lowest of lows as reds, and he's in the mines, and a lot of bad things happen to him, and he just wants to have revenge. And so he becomes like a gold. And so just to see his journey and becoming like a gold and the little like battle that he has to do as a gold, I don't even want to say it's battle, but it kind of is a battle. It's so good. I know a lot of people have ranked this kind of lower, and I think it's just because I think it takes like a fantasy lover's mind to really enjoy this book, because there are a lot of words that you don't know. There's a lot of like confusion that I could see people have with this book, but I feel like this book was just so easy for me to understand because I love fantasy and I've read a lot of different fantasies, and it was just kind of like my brain just had an easy time equipping all the knowledge into a story and seeing it play out. I thought it was great. I definitely think like there is a lot of violence in this book, which after A Voice in the Wind, because you see a lot of violence with the gladiator fight, it didn't really faze me because I was like, oh, I read about this in A Voice in the Wind. This is like nothing. But I just thought it was so good, and there is a romance subplot in here, and I think it's great. I think it's just super cutesy. So I'm definitely really excited to read A Golden Sun. I am so looking forward to read that book. I like literally couldn't stop thinking about this yesterday. I finished it yesterday on Halloween, and I was like, this is great. Honestly, the only reason why I didn't rate this 5 stars was because it did have a little bit of moments where there was like a slight disconnect when I was reading it, even though that's not 100% true, but it was kind of there. This probably would be a 5-star book, but 4.75 made more sense. But it's leaning to a 5-star book, honestly. It may change because I know the rest of the series is great, but I highly recommend listening to this Red Rising inspired playlist. This playlist was so good while reading this book. I felt like when the music would stop, I was like, what am I reading? But when the music was on, I was like, what am I reading? You know what I'm saying? But it was really good, so I highly recommend. All right, so that is the end of my wrap up. I know it was super short, it was super sweet, and there wasn't that many books, but I enjoyed reading this month. I'm really excited for November and the reads that I have. If you want to check them out, once again, check out my November TBR video. There's definitely a lot of exciting books that are going to be read during this month, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what books you read in October. I would love to hear more about them. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.